All right, guys, welcome to another skin pop-up clinic. We are really excited for today's clinic, and we put this together because we don't want quarantine time to be a time where we get dull. We want to make sure that during quarantine, we are being the very best versions of ourselves and coming out of this with super glowing skin. And so we're just sharing our best tips and practices and tricks that we've learned along the way with all of you so that you can come out of this quarantine glowing. And I'm really excited about today because Ashley is going to be talking to us about what is the fountain of youth, and that is your eyebrows. I never knew this until I actually started getting my makeup done. And when I would go to get my makeup done, they would, always do my brows. And I always remember thinking, why do I look so fresh? And I'd get so many compliments. And so much of it was my eyebrows. And Ashley has become an expert at eyebrows. She's done some incredible research. She's met and worked with some incredible people for eyebrows, and it really is an incredible topic for people, and we're excited about it because it's something that people really miss. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, and she's going to share what she has learned about this fountain of youth secret.
Hello, Skin Clinic. It's so exciting to continue to see people joining, and I want to particularly thank those of our attendees that have been faithfully tuning in every day and watching our YouTube channel. This is our passion project. We are just really passionate about skin and looking for a way to help people during this time and share what we know. Today, I'm excited to talk about eyebrows because I last year took a journey in reshaping my eyebrows and learning a lot of things that I didn't know. And ever since I did that, I've gotten quite a bit of compliments on, and people ask me like, what did you do different? What's different about you? And thinking that I just looked younger and brighter and had kind of like a lift effect that happened on my face. And I really attribute it to having gotten acquainted with a studio in Scottsdale called My Lash and Brow. And the woman that owns this studio is a teacher all throughout Arizona, experts come to her for training on how to do things like brow shaping, microblading, ombre shading, brow lamination, permanent makeup. And she's really hard to get into, but when I finally got acquainted with her, she reshaped my brows. And at first I was startled and I didn't like it. But when I really kind of let it settle in, I realized it was a huge improvement in my overall appearance. So I'm excited to share what I've learned with you. When you look in today's, pop culture of what brows are considered attractive, you see some common trends with brows that tend to be straighter, fluffier, more natural, and not overly trimmed or overly plucked. And it gives a more youthful look to the face when you have a straighter brow that's lifted at the end compared to, a decade ago, there was a trend of having more arched, pointy brows. And then in the 90s, it was the overplucked. In early 2000s, it was the overplucked, ultra thin look, which can look really dated today. So we're going to share some do's and don'ts and some other enhancements that you can consider for your post-quarantine life and start researching about. You see there's all different types of shapes, thick, thin, ones that are too close together or too short or overly archy or just purely not shaped at all. And if you can master the art of figuring out what the right brow shape is for your face, it can just do wonders to your appearance and freshening you up and opening your eyes and creating a lift effect. So what are some of the do's and don'ts if you're wanting to get started with potentially looking at if you are ready for a brow update? Number one is to measure. There is a mathematical approach to the right shape for your face, and it's based off of a rule called the golden ratio. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more on the next slide. But measuring your face is the first most important steps. You can watch videos about it online, or when you know, the world opens up again, go to a trained professional that can help you measure and figure out the right shape for your face. The second tip I have is to be constantly brushing your eyebrows up. What I mean by that is having eyebrow brushes with you at all times, and throughout the day, just take a little moment to brush your eyebrows up. This is gonna give you that fluffy look and help to achieve that, what I call a lift, especially on the tail. And throughout the day, your eyebrows kind of naturally can brush down. And so always having an eyebrow brush handy is a way to keep a fresh look. Another tip that I have is stick with one professional. I hear all the time of, you know, friends and family of mine that, you know, will just go in anywhere and get an eyebrow wax. They'll just pop into a place they've never been and trust somebody that doesn't know their face to just wax their eyebrows. And you can experience some horror stories when you don't take the time to really get to know a professional and stick with them, because not everybody understands the golden ratio, and not everybody is a trained professional in modern day brow shaping. So my advice is to find somebody and stick with them. The other do's include, you know, using makeup and even eyebrow tint, which is essentially hair dye for your eyebrows, to just enhance and give you kind of a more finished look. There are many different makeup tools, which we'll go over in the next one, that are just nice little ways to enhance your shape and help you know, allow you to make the brows the focal point of your face and create a more striking look. The next are, consider microblading and ombre shading. The chances are, if there are celebrities in the world that you admire their eyebrows, or, you know, have brow goals based on pictures that you see, it's more than likely that they have done some type of microblading or ombre shading. So familiarize yourself with these procedures and explore if maybe it's something you want to consider. Some essential don'ts, which I highly recommend that we take these to heart, is number one, don't ignore the golden ratio. Get to know what this means, and we'll go over it in the next slide. Put down the tweezers and the scissors, and stop over tweezing and trimming and trying to do too much stuff at home with completely overhauling the shape of your brows. If you are tinting or coloring them in, avoid coloring them in too dark, because it can make your face look harsher. I've learned that the hard way. And don't jump around to going to multiple different, wax places and not sticking with one professional. That can lead to a lot of brow heartache that can take you, years to fix. And my last recommendation is to not droop your tail. And in the next slide, I'll tell you what a droopy tail means. I used to have one and I didn't even know it. So you see here, the golden ratio is essentially a technique that uses the brows as a starting point for beauty. And it's based on architecture in nature, architecture in the law of thirds. And it's all about properly proportioning your eyebrows for the frame of your face and bringing balance and symmetry. It's important to note that you're never gonna have perfectly symmetrical brows. Everybody's brows are different, but you can create a shape that balances them. And as long as you're willing to accept the fact that your brows are never gonna be perfectly the same, you can be in a good position to really fall in love with your brows and step out of quarantine feeling good. So here are some of the enhancements which I'm gonna go over. Makeup. Here are a couple tools. There's a lot on the market. I think Anastasia is a really well-known brow makeup provider. I really like Charlotte Tilbury. They sell her at Nordstrom. What's nice about this is called Brow Lift, and it's a three-way brow tool that has a brush. It has a thick pencil that can create a really nice shape, and there's ways to go about it. We could do a video of it later. and then also a highlighter, which you use underneath when you're done. And it's not white or overly shimmery. It's kind of more of a natural skin color with a little bit of sheen to just give you an extra pop. Tinting is a huge part of my routine. I know, Wendy, it's part of yours as well. How often do you get your brows tinted?
Sorry, I was muted. I get them tinted probably at least once a month. You know, unfortunately, when you're using all this great skincare we've been talking about, it doesn't last very long because with the your face. But for sure, once a month. And I had it done a week and a half ago before I knew I was going to be quarantined, and it's starting to wear off. And I do have some color on there, but it's completely changed my face. Just like you, Ashley. When I first got it done, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it wasn't tattoo, thank goodness. I was freaking out. But after, and all of a sudden there were people like, wow, what'd you do? What's going on? And I thought it must be my eyebrows. And so I love getting them tinted.
Yeah. When I get mine tinted, because I have a lot of blonde hairs in my eyebrows, so I like getting them tinted. It allows me to have to wear less makeup. But I also get my lashes tinted when I do it. The tips of my lashes are kind of blonde. So I always do that as a combo service.
Yeah, and tinting your lashes too, when you put your mascara on it, it's like gives them more to grab. Don't you find when you tint your lashes, your mascara just goes on even better?
Yes. So microblading, here's a little bit about microblading. It's a lot of information to cover, so we'll cover it more in our follow-up email and give you links to areas that you can learn more about it. But essentially microblading is a permanent, semi-permanent makeup solution that lasts about a year, and it uses tiny, almost tattoos tiny brush strokes all across your eyebrow, and just enhances it, helps fill in where you have gaps, or maybe you over tweezed for too many years and your brows don't grow back in certain places. Then it's a fantastic way to be able to fill them in and create a more full look. And then it's nice, it lasts for a year, and then you just go and get it touched up about once a year. Microblading, it fades quicker than ombre shading, which I'm going to review next. So I actually like a combination of the two. Ombre shading is similar to microblading in the sense that it's semi-permanent, but it creates more of a fluffy, powdery look. So it fills in the brows completely rather than just strokes. So it doesn't fade in the same way that microblading fades as quickly. And I think it looks more natural. What I learned about is a combination of doing microblading and ombre shading, because it gives you a full kind of powdery look, but then the microblade effect in the front kind of creates that fluffy, natural hair look, and fills them in, but then the ombre shading kind of takes it from there. The last item is lamination, which is kind of a newer procedure, but it's essentially a perm without harmful chemicals for your brows. It's really good for people that already have thick brows and don't want to, explore microblading or ombre shading, but want to improve the shape. It kind of keeps your hairs up. Like I talked about, brushing up is so important for creating a lift. It keeps them in place and just looks, it looks really striking. Maddie, my hairdresser, had it done recently, and you could really tell the difference. It creates a very youthful, kind of like a boy brow, straight brow look. And then one more thing on the makeup, I know, Caitlin, do you have, I wanted to show also what those stencils are, because those really help with creating the right shape in the golden ratio aspects.
Yes. So can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I use Anastasia. That's what you were talking about. And I actually they have in Scottsdale, they have a counter at Nordstrom, and you can actually go in and get like a full consultation. And I believe it was complimentary as long as I bought the product. And what it was is they went in and they didn't really need to reshape my brow because it was pretty much where they thought it should be. But I have like spots where, and I have nothing, I don't have microblading or anything done to this, but there's spots where I have like bald spots almost. And so I was finding that in my pictures, and I always was shading my brows from the center out rather than the outside in. And I learned that was wrong. And so in pictures, I literally have like this dark, it literally looked like my brow was half the size it was because I was only shading the middle. So I went in and they shaped it and they gave me these stencils and they tell you which one to use. So it looks like this. And this is how I do my brows every day. Obviously I have no makeup on right now and not doing my brows during quarantine, but it's this stencil and I use the high arch. So I think there's like 5 of them, but I've only used this one. And when I do my makeup in the morning, I just put it on. I kind of frame my brow around it. And then they give you, in this little kit, there's different tools. So they give you a brush and a little palette. And then I fill it in and then I take it off and my brows are done. So for me, it's super simple because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. It looks super natural. And it's more of that ombre shading that you were talking about rather than taking like an eyebrow pencil and putting it in. So I really like it. I'm fairly lucky I have good eyebrow hair. And then in the session from the other day with the high frequency laser, I also use that on my eyebrows and it helps the hair growth. I did have a really big bald spot here and it's starting to come back. So that's another good tool to use.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really changed my life. I've been doing my eyebrows like this for maybe a year now, a little over a year. It's so easy. It's so quick. Even if I don't put a lot of other makeup on, I always do that. And it really just, I feel like it's the finishing touch.
Well, thank you. All right, we're gonna go back to these slides. And so we covered all the brow enhancements that are available. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my personal story and kind of what I learned. In the gold, so going back to the golden ratio, you see how there's what's considered the front of your, brow where it starts right here. And there's a certain line that's supposed to start on the edge of your nostril. And then right here, when I said don't droop your tails, there is a rule, part of this golden ratio rule, which actually was trademarked and created by Anastasia, the maker of that brow stencil thing that Caitlin was just showing, that you never want your tail to droop below the front of your brow right here. And if you do that, and a lot of people unfortunately have it, if you do droop down, it drags your face down. So even though it might create, you know, a nice arch and give you some shape that you think looks good, from your side profile, if your brow tail droops below, it drags your face down and creates kind of a droopy look and can aid your overall, by getting rid of that, you create a more youthful look. And as from my Lash and Brow likes to say, it's the best way, getting rid of a droopy brow tail is the best way to have, you know, create a lift without going under the knife. So once I embraced this concept and just listened to her, she completely reshaped my brows. And I'll give, these are some, you know, before and afters that she said that we could, you know, share. And it's men and women alike get procedures like this done. You see in this first picture on the left, it was basically, you know, a woman that had non-existent brow shape and a lot of sparse areas where hair didn't come in. And she got a combination of ombre shading and microblading to just give her brows an overall shape. And when it first gets done, it looks darker and a little bit more severe than it actually will look when it's complete. When it's complete, the healing has completely healed. So just something to keep in mind, that it can be a little severe at first, but it fades and you'll be really happy in the end. This here in the middle, you see this gentleman had ombre shading to just kind of fill in some of the areas that were sparse, and it just creates a more masculine, bolder look having a filled in brow. So you see a lot of men that get procedures like this done too. And then on the far right, what this is lamination. And I don't know if you can hear, I'll go right here. Lamination is that she already had pretty, thick, even brows without a lot, any areas that were bald. But through lamination, which is like the perm for your brows, she's able to get them so that all the brows stay up, and it creates a fuller, more shapely look, and helps again to create a lift by brushing your hairs up. So now I'm going to share with you my story. Before I had this done a year ago, I thought that my brow game was really on point. I believe that. But then one day up in the upper left-hand corner, I saw this article that was written in a San Diego newspaper for a presentation I gave for a customer, and it showed my profile. And I saw this kind of droopy look on the side of my face. It was a subtle thing, but that's what prompted me to want to go and talk to a professional. And I really focused on my arch before. You see in the bottom left picture, I really focused on it, and I thought it looked good up, from the face on. I think it had a nice shapely look, and I had worked hard to grow in areas and not over tweeze. But when you looked at the side, my brow tail dipped below the front, so it dragged down my face on the side. So you see here on the right, this is when I had just got it done. These are pictures that Mai had posted on her website when I first got the ombre shading and microblading, and she changed my shape and lifted my tail and just kind of lowered my arch a little bit, and so I had more of a straight brow instead of an arch. And that straight brow look is consistent with some of those pictures that I showed you in the beginning of the most desired brows that we see constantly in the media. On the far right is after it was completely healed, and you see when I'm kind of turned to the left, it's just a lot of space between my eye and the bright brow tail that creates a lift and just allows a new youthful look. So those are all the slides that we wanted to share regarding brows. It's a lot of information to cover. I encourage you to research it and think about if something like this could potentially improve your overall brow shape so that you feel really happy with the way that your brows look and create that kind of bold look that can be the focal point of your face. I want to open it up to questions. We have 5 minutes left. If anybody is curious about any of this or wants to share, I'd love to hear from you.
You guys might have to unmute yourselves if you're not unmuted.
Should we unmute everyone?
I did.
Okay. Perfect.
And
How long
we'll see
Ashley, how long does it take to get into the person you recommended in Scottsdale for an evaluation?
Usually a couple of months is how far she books out. Right now, obviously, we're in different times and people just aren't, going out, stuff like this done right now. But you can book on her calendar. If you're gonna go to the studio, there's about 6 or 7 women that work there that have trained under her method. I would recommend getting a wait list for my owner. It'll take a little longer, but it's worth it, and she can really help walk you through,
Okay.
type of permanent makeup solution would be, the right one for you. I got not only my brows done through her, I had a lash enhancement, a permanent line on my lash line, and also what's called lip blush. It's just a nice subtle color on your lips, creates a fuller look that allows your lips to pop. So I can just wear chapstick and it always looks like I have something.
And someone asked what Mai's number is, and we're gonna put that on our recap so that you guys have that information for. Is it Mai? Am I saying it right, Ashley?
Yeah, her studio is called My Lash and Brow.
Yeah, very good. And I'm excited. I never knew about lamination. You've been keeping that little secret. That's exciting.
I know. I've not had it done. Maddie had it done recently, but I'm gonna get it done after quarantine for sure.
That's exciting. I use a brow gel Like, I mean, it's not the same as lamination because like if you don't do that, you look in the mirror and your eyelashes are falling or eyebrows are falling down.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah, it helps them to stay
I
up.
want to go check my droop. I'm going to go check.
Yeah. Take side pictures of yourself.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Terry has a question on the chat. What happens when your original brow line begins to grow back in after microblading? Do you have to keep tweezing?
Yes, you do keep tweezing, but it's no different than the shaping that you have to do anyway. I've actually found that since I updated my brow shape, I'm tweezing and doing my brows far less often, because even if they grow in a little bit, my shape is so prominent, and like with the ombre shading, I don't know, I don't notice it as much when they're growing in. The shape really lasts. And I had mine done a year ago. I have not had them touched up. I was actually supposed to have them touched up a couple weeks ago, but of course had to cancel. And we had another question that says, what is the cost for microblading and ombre shading? I will check back to see exactly how much I paid, but I want to say that the combination procedure is in the range of $300 to $400.
And how often did you say you have to, and then the touch up is how much?
I don't know. I'll find out and I'll put that in our recaps to let you know. And it's also directly to my, so it's just something to consider too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
I'm going to brush up right now. Somebody said.
Did you say there are specific eyebrow brushes? I wasn't aware of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's these little disposable ones. These are actually I get from my studio, but also there's like in this Charlotte Tilbury brow lift 3-part thing. It has a brow brush on the end, and you can use it. Always brush them up before you apply any makeup. That like helps set the shape that you want. And then you can also use things just brow gel. There's this, it's called Legendary Brows, and it has a little color in it. And it's really good if you're in between brow tinting and you have little blonde hairs that are shining through, or you just want to keep them up. This not only colors them very naturally, but helps it to stay in place so you get that nice fluffy look.
That's great. And Ashley, we have a big day tomorrow, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, we're really excited about tomorrow. Tomorrow's all about creating an anti-aging master plan in the context of interventions that are kind of, you know, sometimes shy for people to want to talk about, things like Botox or injections. And, you know, Wendy and I are big believers in being very thoughtful and conscientious about ever taking on a intervention such as Botox or injection, and really making sure you do your homework, not follow the trends, not just jump on any other, you know, any new hot face, you know, remedy that's out in the market that's supposed to transform your look or get rid of all your wrinkles, because things like that can really change your face for the worst and permanently do some not good things to the look of your face so you don't look natural. But when you work with the right professional, there are just little maintenance enhancements that you can do over time that are subtle and not noticeable that will allow you to prevent wrinkles from getting deeper and be a part of a long-term plan to help you maintain and age gracefully in the way that you want to, without having to ever put yourself in a position to have to go under the knife. I think the ultimate goal is little enhancements along the way so that you're never, you know, feeling like the only hope is to cut your face open, because that's what we're trying to avoid here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So we are very excited about tomorrow. It's going to be one of we're just so excited. It's going to be great. And so you can get the recap for today, and all the information from today will be on our email. And then yeah.
Also pay attention to the access for tomorrow, because we're doing live interaction with a professional. The format's going to be a little bit different. So pay attention to the email, because it's not going to be the same as every day.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be great, and we're really excited about it. So, might want to get your buddies on tomorrow because it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a really good one.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Have
Thanks,
a good
guys.
day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Ashley. Great. Thanks, Caitlin.
Bye.
Good evening.
Bye, Ashley.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
sweetie.
you. Love you all.
Bye.
Miss you. Let's talk tonight.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.